Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our first ever Denver Business Journal Fast 50 and Colorado Inno on Fire hybrid event. And to make it even more interesting, we're doing it right here virtually. There's an unescapable fact in business. If you're not growing, then you're falling behind. The Denver area is home to some of the nation's most dynamic companies that fully understand what it takes to fuel blazing fast growth, even during one of the most challenging times we've faced as a community and nation. And to fully celebrate that spirit of risk-taking, business savvy, and raw talent, DBJ has joined forces with Colorado Inno, our sister publication that covers all things startup, not just in the Mile High City, but across the Centennial State. This afternoon, we'll meet the leaders of today and the rising leaders of tomorrow as we celebrate the region's fastest growing companies, brightest entrepreneurs, and startups who are reshaping the innovation ecosystem in Colorado. Here's some fast facts that will surely grab your attention. The combined 2019 revenue of our Fast 50 is $3.5 billion. That reflects a 78% combined three-year growth rate for all of the companies. Total people employed by our Fast 50 checks in at 8,771. Those are some pretty impressive numbers. Since it's a bit early for adult libations, let's just raise a coffee mug to all of our finalists. And this program will count down the finalists in each category and reveal the winners, or Blazers as we like to call them, as well as introduce you to the Inno on Fire Blazers. And those Inno on Fire Blazers are doing some pretty impressive things, closing new funding, launching big products, and of course, innovating. I'll be sitting down with Inno's Nick Greenhouse here in a minute to talk you through exactly how their process works, as well as ours. We wouldn't be able to do any of this, of course, without the generous support of our sponsors, who recognize the importance of supporting and honoring fast growth companies and startups and step up big time to help us put on programs like this. So a very special thank you to our presenting sponsor, BDO. Let's tune in to a special word from them.
The landscape has changed, and not for the last time. The rules of business are being reinvented with a more flexible workforce, by embracing innovation, by looking not only at current opportunities, but ahead to future ones. Resilience is the ability to pivot again and again for whatever happens next.
People who know BDO.
Thanks to BDO for that great message and for being such a great partner, and thank you for all you do to move our region forward. I'd also like to thank supporting partner Amica and hospitality sponsor CARBOY Winery. It's never too early to be thinking about how you'll celebrate these impressive accomplishments after we wrap, and CARBOY's wine, well, in my opinion, is a great approach to those evening plans. All right, let's break the fourth wall and take you with me to my office where the magic happens. We'll be chatting to Nick at Inno, Greg Anton at BDO, and all of our winners virtually this year. So let's head to my office now and get with Nick on the Inno piece. Okay, the magic doesn't really happen in my office. It happens in our newsroom where they create all of that timely, locally relevant, exclusive content you just can't get anywhere else. Hello, Nick, and thanks for spending some time with us today to talk to our audience about this unique partnership we're forging.
Hey, thanks, Kevin. It's great to be here celebrating not only Inno on Fire, but also DBJ's Fast 50.
Yeah, we're happy to have you, Nick. We've been doing Fast 50 for at least a decade now, so I'll let you go first. Tell our audience all about Colorado Inno and the Inno on Fire program.
For sure. For more than 2 years now, Colorado Inno has been covering, connecting, and catalyzing the state startup ecosystem through a daily newsletter, a flow of editorial content, monthly events, directories, and much more.
Yeah, I know I read your newsletter every day, and I love it. It's great to learn all about innovative startups, not just in the Mile High City, but also across the state.
Absolutely. While DBJ does a fantastic job of covering businesses of all shapes and sizes in the metro area, we really do take a whole state approach on reporting on startups, from south to the Mountain West to the Eastern Plains and Northern Colorado, and ever in between.
That's great. So tell us about Inno on Fire and how do you pick the companies that we'll meet here today?
Absolutely. Yeah, Inno on Fire, just like Fast 50, is an extension of our editorial product. The biggest difference is that it celebrates the Colorado startups that have had a banner year, as opposed to companies with trackable growth. So we're looking at the people and companies that have brought on new funding, launched products, made hires, or offered an innovative approach to solving the most challenging problems there are out there. Inno on Fire is really designed to showcase those that are making the biggest impact on our local ecosystem.
So tell us about the categories, Nick. How do you pick the winners, or blazers as we call them?
Yeah, for sure. So to gather this initial list of 50, we sourced our communities. So we were accepting nominations from across the state and using our editorial expertise to trim that list down to the 50 that were honored. We then reached out to an esteemed panel of judges that includes past honorees, industry stakeholders, and folks that are just plugged into this ecosystem. We asked them to choose a blazer winner in each of our 7 categories, which are crisis innovators, early stage, hardware or physical products, healthcare, Inno on the road, software, and supporters.
Thanks for the explanation, Nick. We are thrilled to count you as part of the DBJ family. And I know our audience found this talk helpful as we get closer to diving into the rankings. Enjoy the event, Nick.
Thanks, Kevin. You too.
All right, everyone, let's talk about how this event will flow. We're going to introduce you to the Fast 50 ranked within the size categories and a high energy video countdown. We then show you a quick interview between a top executive from the winning firm and myself. The second part of the show will focus on the Inno on Fire blazers. Much like Fast 50, we'll count them down in each of the categories Nick mentioned earlier and share a quick interview between a top executive from the winning firm and myself. Then we'll close the show out and send our blazers off to bask in the glory of a huge win. That's the plan, and it's time to bring in Greg Anton from presenting sponsor BDO and get things rolling.
Hey, thanks so much, Kevin. It's really great to be here with you.
Greg, thanks for being here today. All right, let's talk really quickly about how Fast 50 happened. You play such an important role in this whole process.
It's really our pleasure to be involved. We're so proud to be a presenting sponsor really for the past several years of Fast 50. And obviously prior to ACM joining BDO, we did conduct certain verification processes of financial information submitted by the companies, and we hope that adds some value to the process as well.
It absolutely does, Greg. We're honored to have you here today. And your company recently went through a big growth event itself. So can you expand on that? I know you can relate to these companies because of your past.
Yeah. I mean, in our first years of being in business, we were recognized as a Fast 50 company, and we had been recently. And now, as of August, ACM has joined BDO, the 5th largest accounting organization in the world. But even with our involvement now, or our continued involvement, we don't think anything's going to change, and we look forward to supporting the program.
So Greg, let's stop there and talk a little bit more about why this program is so important to Denver and why it's important to you and your brand.
Well, as I mentioned, we were a recipient of this award on multiple occasions in the past. We know how hard it is to have double-digit to year-over-year double-digit growth in multiple years. It's really, really trying and really difficult. And we think it's really our responsibility to help foster that growth and support other companies that are doing it in our Denver business community.
Well said, Greg. And what makes these companies so special?
You know, the reality is they've figured it out. They're all in different lines of business, but they've figured out how to attract, retain, grow, and continue to do that. And what's incredible is they're doing it in what are clearly unprecedented times that we're all living through today.
You know, that is so true, Greg. Thank you for telling us about the reasoning behind why you sponsor this program and why it's so important to you.
Yeah, it's absolutely our pleasure.
So let's bring in our first poll question. Throughout this event, we'll be testing out your engagement mojo through 3 polls that will roll in. It's a little tricky, so hear me out. Our audience can vote in these polls by going into the chat area and clicking the blue vote button below the chat box. This should be on the right-hand side of your screen. Greg, why don't you go ahead and introduce our first poll question?
You got it. Kevin, for our first poll question, let's go ahead and literally talk about engagement. Denver, tell us what your company does best when it comes to employee engagement. Is it A, salary and benefits, B, keeping you informed about goals and accomplishments, C, perks like unlimited time off, happy hours, and events, D, something else, or all of the above? You can tell us about other things in the chat box.
That's perfect, Greg. Thanks for getting the engagement kicked off. The results will pop up in the chat box shortly. Thanks for being such a great sponsor and a great partner too. I'll look forward to connecting with you a little later in the event.
Thanks so much, Kevin.
All right, let's get this show on the road and start the countdown again after the winner in each category is revealed. I'll share that exciting news with them and chat briefly with their senior executives. If you're ready, I'm ready. Let's go. The extra small category is defined as companies with annual revenue between 1 million and 3.59 million. Let's reveal the rankings. Our winner in the extra small category is making its DBJ Awards debut with 156% growth and some game-changing work and infusions. Let's meet our extra small category winner, Levo. We have CFO and COO Craig Serrano with us today. Congratulations, Craig.
Hey, Kevin, great. That's wonderful news for us to learn.
So, Craig, COVID-19 hit just as you were coming off of a tremendous growth year. How did you have to pivot to continue your trajectory?
Yeah, I think it was really interesting for us. I mean, there was no doubt that COVID-19 took a big hit on all businesses, but particularly retail with a lot of the shutdown, of the ability to go out and shop. And so we were actually quite fortunate that at the end of last year we had made some heavy investments in our direct-to-consumer business. And so when the shopping was shut down and retail was shut down and all of that all that consumer behavior went online, we were well positioned. So the way COVID-19 affected us was our supply chain, and we had to accelerate orders. And so we were working with our factory to make sure that we could fulfill consumer demand. And fortunately for us, we actually sold out quite a few times. So we are growing, we're taking advantage of the change in consumer behavior, and we spent a lot of time working with our customers to make sure we could get the product to them as fast as possible.
The small category is defined as companies with annual revenue between 3.6 million and 8.9 million. Let's watch the small category countdown. Small category winner clocks in at 3,300% growth And the company's founder was also recently recognized as one of DBJ's Who's Who in Agriculture honorees. Let's meet our small category winner, Front Range Biosciences. I am here with CEO and founder, Dr. John Vaught. Congratulations, John.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm really excited and honored.
What are some of the bright spots that have popped up during this journey? You know, and I would say a bright spot, a biggest lesson that you've learned.
Yeah, there's always so many. I try to learn on a daily basis and continue to grow. And I try to encourage our team to do the same and our company to do the same. I think one of the big bright spots that really comes to mind is just the opportunity for everyone to take a step back for a second and really evaluate what's important, both for the business, but also, personally, professionally, people having to spend more time at home and having the opportunity. Also some of the challenges that come with that, for people that have children and other things that other responsibilities that changed as a result of the new workflows. And I think it was a huge opportunity to reflect. And I think I've noticed it in people, both in personal relationships and professional relationships. And I think the bright spot is it really has gotten people to think about what matters most.
The medium category is defined as companies with annual revenue between $9 million and $15.9 million. Here comes the rankings. Company with the largest growth in the medium category dominated the small group with 10,000% growth last year. And at 861% growth this year, they moved up in the Fast 50 category world. Let's meet our medium category winner, Hemp Depot. I'm here with CEO and founder, Andy Radosevich. Congratulations, Andy.
Well, thank you so much. We're so excited to be a part of it. And we won the small category last year, and to realize that we won the medium category this year is so exciting for the team and the company as a whole.
How important is culture in your business?
Well, I think it's huge in any company, right? It's not just a CBD company or the size company that we are. And a big thing that we really try and run in our company is not having a single boss that is trying to oversee everything, but really categorize into different sections with leaders that can focus on continual improvement in those categories. So having somebody that's a director of farming and a director of extraction and a director of sales, a director of marketing, and having those teams really completely self-sufficient. And so it's not one person that everyone's reporting to, but really structuring the company where you empower the employees themselves. From there, trying to get everybody so that they're happy with the workforce, and also an environment of family and friendship. The people that come into Hemp Depot every day know that we're going to bend over backwards to make sure that they have everything from benefits to job security, but also a sense of family, that we have company lunches and dinners, as well as social events, so that everybody can really create that sense of family and friendship within the business is key to our culture.
Moving on up, the large category includes companies with between $16 million and $74.9 million in annual revenue, and along with the rankings. blazer in the large category with 3,275% growth is also making its DBJ Awards debut today. Let's meet our large category winner now, HPM. I'm here with their president, Ray Halquist. Congratulations, Ray.
Well, thank you very much. Super excited to be the winner this year, especially in the year of the pandemic, but it's putting a bright spot on 2020 for us.
You are in the commercial construction industry, which has clearly been impacted by COVID. When you think about your planning going into the new year, what are some of the things that you're considering, whether it be the way you're doing business, who you're doing business with, or just any headwinds or tailwinds that you're excited about or that are keeping you up at night?
That's a great question. We actually just had our planning meeting last week for 2021. And what we really came out with was focusing on the current clients and markets that we're in and making sure that we're delivering as best we can in those markets before we start drifting outside our swim lanes, and doubling down on our efforts to make sure that we service both commercial as well as municipality and federal work. Mm-hmm. And we're good at it, and staying in those swim lanes is positive. I was around in construction when the 2010 issues all happened, and suddenly you saw different firms entering new markets, and that's a quick way to get in trouble very quickly. And so we decided we're going to really focus and keep where we're at. From a bright spot, I think that we're going to all get through this. The U.S. was really churning before this happened. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be a V-shaped recovery. I don't know how long the bottom will be, but I think we're gonna rebound very quickly, and Colorado is going to be back, really driving the U.S. from a market standpoint.
The last of our Fast 50 categories is the extra large category, defined as companies with 75 million or more in annual revenue. Let's meet the finalists and see who came out on top. The winner in the extra large category is a frequent winner of awards programs, a cloud distribution technology company that just announced 1,800 new jobs earlier this year. Let's meet our extra large category winner, PAX 8. I'm here with their president, John Street. Congratulations, John.
Thank you, Kevin. It's great news. It's great news. Thank you.
So, John, PAX 8 has really been on a roll. In fact, we just recognized your chief revenue officer earlier this month through our C-Suite Awards. Clearly, you've created a culture of success over there. So tell us about the importance of company culture at PAX 8 and how that may have changed during the pandemic.
It is really very important, and it always has been to us and to me. I've started several businesses, and one of the hallmark of my businesses has been a successful and thriving culture. And we don't stumble upon that. It really starts at the core of our philosophy, which is servant leadership. We really work as leaders of the company. I'm inherently in a business that is populated by a lot of young people and people that are more progressive technologically. And it's important that I kind of bring these people along. And in many cases, they have so much talent. And maybe, us older guys there are a little better at just, we've been around the block, so we know a little better about what we don't know. We're always questioning, but in a good way. We have some pretty good ideas about things, but we don't come with too many preconceived notions. But the leadership is really focused on enabling the frontline workers to do their jobs better.
Hello, Greg. Good to see you again.
Man, I don't know how we keep seeing each other. We're bumping into each other constantly on this video.
I'm glad you're enjoying it, Greg. Why don't you go ahead and introduce the next poll question?
Absolutely. The next poll question gets us into why we're all here today: growth and innovation. Tell us, Denver, what do you think about this? When it comes to growth and innovation, do you think that most successful companies, A, have strong, unwavering leadership at the top, B, have leadership that listens to all voices, C, have leadership that empowers their employees to drive that change and innovation, D, all of the above or something else? And again, you can use the chat box.
That's great, Greg. I'd say it's probably all of the above plus more, but thanks for getting that poll question out there. Again, the results will pop up shortly. I'll catch you later, Greg.
See you soon.
The Crisis Innovators category recognizes tech and startup innovators that came together during the COVID-19 pandemic to fill the gaps in the fight against the virus. Let's see who's in the fight. Crisis Innovators category winner has become a crucial resource during the pandemic, scaling up to meet a 400% increase in the demand for its chat-based medical services. Let's meet our Crisis Innovators category winner, Cirrus MD. I'm here with their president, Scott Johnson. Congratulations, Scott.
Thank you. Very excited to hear about this. Wow. Thank you so much.
Scott, you're in the business of transforming the role of telemedicine in healthcare, which surely accelerated during the pandemic. What was the impact to your business, and how have you had to pivot to stay on track?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's been it's been an exciting time for us as a company. This is really, as you think about a telemedicine company, not that you wish for a pandemic, but certainly, pressure testing what you've built in a way that COVID did create some challenges for us. I'd say, probably the biggest thing that we had to do in terms of pivot is rapidly expand our provider network. So fortunately for us, we had a number of physicians. When I say provider network, that those are the docs that cover all 50 states for us. So we had physicians that were ready to go, but we had to quickly get them on the platform and get them up to speed within hours, literally. Additionally, we've had to expand the specialties that we offer. Really, I'd say the biggest focus and biggest advancement we made throughout the course of the last several months has been around behavioral health and moving that forward at a very rapid pace. So, happy to say the team responded exceptionally well. We, under pressure, maintained our response time, which is less than 60 seconds from the time a patient comes on and requests some assistance to the time the doctor engages with them. Our technology platform and everything has performed just as it did before the COVID, and it's 4 times the amount of volume. So so some pivots along the way, but really excited that the team responded exceptionally well.
The early stage category recognizes businesses that are pre-Series A funding and or have fewer than 10 employees. Let's check out the finalists. early stage category winner is a startup that not only closed an oversubscribed 3.5 million C2 funding round, but it also just opened its Austin office in the middle of a pandemic. Okay, let's meet our early stage category winner, Suna. I'm here with CEO and founder Liz Georgie. Congratulations, Liz.
I am so happy to have won this category. Thank you, Kevin. Look at this great jacket that I get to wear for winning this incredible award.
You're in the high quality custom content business, or as you said, storytelling. How do you see your business changing as you go into the new year? What type of things are you considering when you're putting your plans together?
Yeah, absolutely. Suna is a business that really helps clients get access to professional and still affordable photo and video. And one of the things I really want to emphasize in that is video. You know, we are all meeting online via these video platforms. And so we have more of an ability right now as consumers to engage with video than we ever have before. And I think brands really need to think about, how can I insert video into my strategy in 2021? How can I take these little moments of video stories about my business and connect with people in the way that we are so used to connecting right now? This is a powerful, powerful tool for becoming visually memorable, but also connecting with people on a deeper level. And so I really hope that people will be thinking about how to leverage video in the new year.
Let's take a break from the action and take a fun and lighthearted look at some of today's winners, diving into their celebratory boxes, brought to you by our friends at CARBOY Winery. The hardware physical products category goes beyond devices and consumer goods and into future work like robotics. Let's see who's who in hardware. Hardware physical products category winner was awarded a $1.5 million grant by the Department of Defense to further develop its BioSleeve in partnership with the Air Force Special Operations Command. Let's meet our hardware physical products category winner. I'm here with CEO Phil Bogdanovich and COO and co-founder Dr. Shaka Bahadur. Congratulations, Phil and Shaka. Yeah, so during this time, when you think about biggest lesson or biggest lessons learned, what comes to mind?
Work the problem. Work the problem until it's done. So I'll turn it back over to Phil. But this being able to be in a startup, every day there's a fire of some sort, and I have to say that 2020 has just been on fire, quite literally, not only in Brazil, and California, and Colorado, but just metaphorically with our business. But despite every challenge that we've had, we just break apart complicated and complex problems down to simple problems, and we solve each simple problem step by step.
Yeah, it's been eating the elephant one bite at a time, and so. For us, I think a perfect example is we didn't start in healthcare. That wasn't the intention. We were in oil and gas. Our first major investors were in oil and gas. And at the beginning of the year, not only did we find ourselves in the pandemic, but also the energy market fell off a cliff. And so at that point, by I think any reasonable assumption, it should have been a very, very hard year for us at that moment. And we should have been looking at a shutdown. And instead, Shaka and I got together in a room with everybody else and had the conversation of, this is where we are, these are the problems. And we just started working the steps and working the steps and working the steps, and realized that this was going to put us on a trajectory probably to pivot to healthcare sooner than we had intended. And so we made that move, and we've been scaling. And so we're on track to exceed the revenue projections that we had even before COVID hit.
The healthcare category recognizes both business-to-business and consumer-facing companies working in the healthcare and medtech space. Let's see who made the cut. Our healthcare category winner has the unique honor of being both a DBJ Best Places to Work and Colorado Inno Blazer. Let's meet our healthcare category winner, Sondermind. We have CEO and founder Mark Frank here with us today. Congratulations, Mark.
Thank you so much for this amazing honor. I really, really appreciate it. And on behalf of the whole company and Sondermind, we're thrilled to be winners this year.
When you think about your company culture, just talk about the importance of that at Sondermind.
So culture at Sondermind is by far the #1 thing for our continued success. So it's been a challenge in this environment where we've been growing pretty rapidly, and we've been hiring people in a remote setting to maintain that and to just make sure that we're, again, using that word, deliberate about how we manifest and how our culture manifests over time as we grow the number of team members that we have. So culture for us is really about the way that we engage with one another. It's our adherence to our core values. We have 6 core values that we really focus on. One is a made-up word: bucket worthiness, empathy, transparency, courage, ownership, and passion. And we use those core values to really define how we engage with each other, how we engage with partners, how we engage with our with our customers and with other employees. And it does involve the way that we hire people, the way that we promote, the way that we continue to seek ongoing improvement as an organization and as individuals.
The Inno on the Road category recognizes innovators who are having an impact across the entire state. Let's see who's making a difference in Colorado. On the Road winner's latest initiative through a $17.5 million fund was targeted at getting cash to startups to remote parts of our state. Let's meet our Inno on the Road winner, Greater Colorado Venture Fund. We have partner Corey Finney here with us today. Congratulations, Corey. I love the red winner blazer.
Thank you. Yeah, it's looking good on us. We're so appreciative of the nominee and really thankful for the award and excited to share what we're up to and participate alongside everybody else today.
What few pieces of advice would you share with the startup community that are trying to find their footing during this chaotic time?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, double down and focus on the customer. Right, I think customers' needs are changing right now, and it's ever important to adapt your business and your strategy to them, and to continue to deliver incredible products and incredible services. I think second is don't be afraid to be nimble. and to do a little self-examination, what might need to change within yourself or your own organization to survive challenges like this.
Greg, we have to stop meeting like this.
Tell me about it.
I know. Tell us about the third and final poll question.
This final question is pretty straightforward and tackles the current and unprecedented climate we're living through. Let's see what our audience thinks. What sort of impact do you think the pandemic has had on your business? A, it's made us much stronger, and we're definitely going to come out of this better than we went into it. B, it's revealed some cracks, but we're working through it. C, something else. Tell us about that again in the chat box. That's it, Kevin.
Well, thanks again, Greg. I like the first one. I think we will come out of this more stronger than united as ever. And I also think we'll see each other one more time before this thing is over, Greg.
Looking forward to it. See you soon.
The software category might sound simple, but it's a deep dive into businesses doing fascinating things with AI and machine learning. Software category winner knows small bonuses from colleagues add up to real-world rewards. Here with Bonusly founder, CEO, and founder, Raphael Crawford Marks. Congratulations, Raphael.
Oh, thank you so much. This is a great honor.
So obviously you found the way to survive and thrive in this chaos. When you think about the new year, what are some of the headwinds and opportunities that you see?
Yeah. Well, I think a major headwind is just the overall economic uncertainty and the possibility or probability of continued recession or at best a slow recovery. I'm of the mind that a recession doesn't help anyone. And even though we've lucked out in being in a space where there is some increased demand for our services, ultimately a recession is a headwind for everyone. And so that is the major consideration for us. We have to think about our customers and more importantly, our prospects, trying to save money, trying to really conserve on their budgets, trying to combine tooling, and how do we make sure that we are perceived as a need to have and something that they're going to, say yes to and choose to buy when they're really pinching pennies. So that's going to be the big headwind. And then I think the big, tailwind is this dramatic shift, this acceleration of the already existing trend towards more flexible and more remote work, and what the implications are for how companies manage and engage their workforces. And so that's something that we've been writing about and thinking about and building software for the better part of a decade. We are, we're actually pretty excited about the fact that companies really are making this dramatic shift towards these new approaches to structuring work in the workplace.
The supporters category recognizes leaders and organizations working to grow the startup ecosystem and provide resources to the community. Let's find out who's supporting out there. Supporters category winner was hired to lead the Colorado Tech Coalition for Equity and Inclusion, which aims to broaden access and improve equity in the state. Let's meet our supporters category winner, Equity Solutions. I'm here with CEO Aaron Clark. Congratulations, Aaron.
Thank you, Kevin.
What are some of the biggest lessons you've learned during this time? You know, I've talked to a lot of the other winners about this, and I've heard some very interesting answers. So what has been your takeaway throughout this chaotic period?
Yeah, if there's anything I've learned in the last 8+ months, is that every single one of us needs to have a graceful space. You know, in the startup world, in the business world, a lot of times we're moving very fast, and it's sort of unapologetic at the pressure that we put upon ourselves and our colleagues. But what this pandemic and this last year has done is allow us to take a beat and to realize that we're all humans, and we may come from different walks of life, but we all need sometimes just to be allowed to slow down and be human, to make a mistake, to have to say no to an extra meeting, you know, to have to take some extra time to relax and refresh ourselves. And so this last year has really taught us, you know, to focus on the humanity in each and every one of us. And I think doing so has allowed us to see that even though we do have differences, a lot of us are like each other.
Congratulations to all the winners. What an inspiring group of Blazers. We're back with Greg Anton of BDO to introduce what promises to be a great panel discussion. Greg, why don't you tell us what's about to unfold here?
Thanks, Kevin. First, though, I'd also like to offer my sincere congratulations to all the finalists and winners. We all know it's really hard to get here. Being recognized is amazing, and congratulations to all. So today, we're going to hear more from Nick at Colorado Inno, who will moderate what promises to be a really insightful, informative panel discussion with Denver's own Brian Leach, founder and CEO of Unicorn Ibotta. And we all know unicorn means $1 billion valuation enterprise, along with Katika Roy, gender economist and founder, CEO of Pipeline Equity. Both have been honored in DBJ's pages for various award programs in the past. Let's go ahead and get the panel started. I'll hand it over to Nick.
Thank you, Kevin and Greg. I appreciate the intro. I am here with Katika Roy of Pipeline Equity and Brian Leach of Ibotta. We'll be chatting briefly here about growth, what it means to them, and tips and tricks to achieve it. I'll start off, Katika, if you want to introduce yourself and Pipeline Equity, go ahead.
Sure. My name is Katika Roy. I'm the CEO and founder of Pipeline. Pipeline is a cloud platform that increases the financial performance of companies through closing the intersectional gender equity gap, so gender plus race and ethnicity. We actually did a study across 4,000 companies in 29 countries, and what we found was that for every 10% increase, there's a 1 to 2% increase in revenue.
Brian, go ahead.
Thanks for having me, Nick. I'm Brian Leach. I'm the founder and CEO of Ibotta. Ibotta is the leading cashback rewards platform in the United States. We have about 40 million people who use our platform to earn cashback on everyday items. We've paid coming up on about $1 billion in cashback rewards to American consumers. And we're based in Denver, about 750 employees. I've been doing this for about 8 years.
Awesome. Well, thank you both. Let's jump right in here. So growth is often used as a buzzword in the tech and startup world, but both of you know that there's a lot of work that goes into achieving it. It's more than just a term. How do you define growth at your company? And Katika, why don't you lead us off?
Well, revenue obviously is the top metric that we always measure, but I think that as a leader, and particularly in a startup, you need to measure your progress along the way. So we really look at all the different positive things that happen, and there can be many of those things in a week because being in a startup is a roller coaster. And so understanding all of your forward momentum, all of your forward progress is an important metric to really also keep your team motivated, because being in a startup is not easy.
Brian, follow up on that?
Yeah, I agree with Katika. I think, look, there are a number of different aspects of growth. There's the pure financial performance. So what's my compound annual growth rate in terms of my net revenue and so forth? That's pretty straightforward. The ones that I think are maybe less often talked about are, how am I growing as measured by my mission. So for instance, when I talk about, we're now getting to a point where we're giving people $300 million a year in rewards versus $100 million versus, $10 in the first month or whatever it was. So there's growing in service of our mission. And then there's, I think, just personal growth as a leadership team as we've gone through more things together and faced more challenges. And I think you can't really lead a growth company without signing up for a whole lot of having to go through growth yourself. And growth is actually very uncomfortable from a personal standpoint. So I hope we'll get into talking a little bit about the lived experience of running a growth company as well.
Yeah, let's continue along that thread. Brian, now that we've defined the term, what are some of those important lessons that you've learned? What are some of those uncomfortable things that you've learned along the process?
Yeah, generally speaking, I would say that you're onto something when you're uncomfortable. When you are disrupting an industry, you are, by definition, doing something that the majority of people would assume is not possible. And if you've done that once, you've maybe been labeled a growth company. But as you get to 100, 200, north of $200 million in revenue, what I've seen is that what it takes to move the needle on a percentage basis is an even bolder, even more audacious, even more disruptive idea. And so if you don't maintain the mindset of the next big disruptive innovation, you'll never be able to outdo the last act. And so as you're bringing new investors in and they're putting in hundreds of millions of dollars and expecting to see their money go 3 to 5x over a matter of a few years, the burden that places on you to spend your time on things that could really move the needle against that definition is totally different than what you would spend your time on or focus on when you're running a much smaller company. Even if that company was growing at a higher rate, the absolute dollars that you have to add every year just totally change the way you think about running the company.
Katika, over to you. What are some of the lessons you've learned in growing pipeline equity?
I'm the daughter of an immigrant and a refugee, so my perspective of like growth being uncomfortable, but also my perspective is different because in terms of sort of generally because I was raised with this idea that like I'm privileged to have been born in this country and to have the opportunities that I was given. And so the two things that I was really that I was raised with were to never give up and to always do your best. And I think that's really good advice in general, but it's particularly good when you're in a startup because there's as Brian talks about, when you are bringing something, creating a new market and being disruptive, there's a lot of fear to push through, right? You can believe in what you're going to do, but you're going to have a fair amount of people who will come, they're well intended, but they will push back on you. And so this idea of just, one, that always do your best and to never give up. The other piece that for us that was particularly important is that it wasn't about us, that there are millions of employees that we actually impact, and that if we can focus on them and the work that we're doing and the ripple that we send out, right? Because if you have equity of opportunity for instance, a breadwinner mom, it doesn't only impact her, it impacts her family, and it doesn't only impact them more immediately, it also impacts their lives for their future, right? And their future economic opportunity. And for us, that was a big part of, and is a big part of our ethos.
We talked about some of the lessons learned, and this event is largely focused on celebrating companies in the local ecosystem that are growing, whether they're early stage startups to more established companies continuing growth. But growth isn't an automatic, and it often comes with struggles. What are some of the hurdles or challenges you and your company have overcome in achieving the growth you've achieved thus far? Either of you can grab that one first.
Yeah, I'll jump in briefly. I think that we're building consumer technology. And so it's very difficult to know what consumers want until you put it in front of them. This is the classic, if you ask the consumers in the 1915 to 1920 period what they want, they would have told you a faster horse and buggy. And sometimes that's just irreducible learning process. And it's a very humbling process because you think based on pattern recognition or research that you've done or other learnings, and you're just dead wrong. And you put a lot of effort and credibility behind something with, we have 500 full-time employees who believe that if I say this is going to be the next thing, it will be the next big thing. And sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. So what do you do when it isn't? how do you own that and embrace that as part of the process of innovation and iteration, and not have everyone say, man, this guy doesn't know where he's leading this company. And then how do you have the courage to make the next bold bet? I mean, it's like striking out a couple times, 3 times, maybe you're 0 for 10. You keep swinging at the curveball that's outside the strike zone. How do you have confidence that in that next at bat you're going to come through for your team? And I think you just have to have a certain reservoir of self-belief, but I also think surrounding yourself with people who encourage you and make it feel like a joint decision, I think is really important to having the kind of patience to become the overnight success after 5-10 years of trial and error.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with a lot of what Brian says. I think that being a female founder, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about gender and what that looks like for female founders, that there's not often as much opportunity for us to fail forward. That doesn't mean we can't, but it's just something to be aware of, that the headwinds, any entrepreneur faces a tremendous amount of headwinds anytime you're being disruptive. And if you are female, you face even stronger headwinds. I think that's, and not to listen to the naysayers. I think, for us, we did a pivot a couple of years ago, and that was really helpful. It was when we were in the Techstars program, and it was really helpful in terms of our growth and helping us grow faster. And I think, also I would say for the people, you have to both coach people, but also know how to make tough talent decisions, because in a startup in particular, every single person matters. And so some of those decisions can be really difficult to make, but if you don't make them, they could actually lead to your failure.
Mm-hmm. And continuing along the thread of challenges, the current pandemic has made it harder than ever for many startups and tech companies to succeed. For most, and Kadaka, you just mentioned the idea of pivot. The pandemic has forced them to alter their roadmaps or pivot their company with very little notice. How have each of you and your companies dealt with the challenges associated with the current pandemic? Kadaka, why don't you lead us off?
Sure. So, we have a fairly large voice externally in terms of our branding. I write for a number of publications, including NBC and Fortune and World Economic Forum. So when the pandemic hit, we knew that probably people were not going to be talking about gender equity software for a little while. And so we thought, well, what can we do to be of service? How can we really be of service at this moment? And so what we actually did, using our data and our knowledge, was to launch a couple of campaigns. And one of those was around using gender mainstreaming, which is essentially applying a gender lens to economic stimulus, which unfortunately in the US hasn't been done right now, and not to date, but things like understanding that if you give $1,200 to a single mom and $500 for each of her kids, her expenses are not substantially less than if she was a family of 4. And that not only is the right thing to do, but it also has an economic impact to our recovery. So that was one of the things that we did, and wrote, quite a bit, did an interview with the B20, did speaking engagement with the G7. There's a lot of things that we have made an impact on. And then the second really was actually focusing on female-founded startups, because we receive less than 3% of all venture funding. So in 2019, female-founded startups actually, as a cohort, across the entire startup ecosystem, actually received less funding than one company, which was WeWork. And so understanding that in a time when you're probably going to have reduced revenues and you're trying to figure out what's going to look like, that supporting female-founded startups and really the PPP money in general was not gender lensed, right? That is of critical importance because it's important for our economic recovery. Then in actual fact, we need to be supporting innovations that are going to spur recovery. So we did those two things. And then we also launched a new product, which was called Pipeline Talent Finder, which was really targeted, and companies are still grappling with this, but the idea was that if you if someone in your company gets COVID, you need to figure out how to move somebody into their role. Like, it could be a mission critical role, and you may not have that information about your talent.
So we launched Pipeline Talent Finder, and what we find is that for 86% of those times, we can actually find someone who can backfill that role essentially at the push of a button. So how we, really helped companies to manage in a time when they weren't going to be able to hire people, they were going to have to deal with talent disruptions pretty quickly.
Awesome. Brian, what has Ibotta done during this pandemic to continue growing and continue your business?
Look, I'll be happy to lay out a few things. The first thing I want to say is just to acknowledge that it's hard. It's difficult for everybody. And if your business is struggling, it's not your fault, most likely. And any business is struggling and adapting. And I think one thing that a lot of entrepreneurs tend to do is just only talk about how gloriously they've done and come out ahead and all that. And it really invalidates the experience of people who are quite worried about the future of their business. And I've experienced that terror myself this year at various points. In the first part of this year, we saw the promotional landscape really change as people weren't shopping in the normal ways. They weren't going to stores. Brands were taking a wait and see approach on promoting traffic on their websites and stores. And that was a first in our business. And so it was scary, and it required us to reforecast our business. It required us to become much more conservative with our expenditures to solve for a longer runway because we didn't know how it would play out. As it turns out, one of the things that's happened is that changing in consumer purchase habits has led to far more people buying things like groceries online, which is a really exciting opportunity for our company because we're the only company that provides cashback rewards for online groceries. And now all of a sudden that's a big deal. That's not 5%, that's 25% of US grocery shopping. So the silver lining can be found in the ashes or the rubble of your latest round of layoffs if you're really focused on it, I think. And I think we've sort of had an Apollo project, as we called it, to really rotate into building the tools that would capitalize on that moment. We found retailers much more interested in working with us because they're worried about Amazon and worried about e-commerce. So there have been a number of things that have actually catalyzed innovation that maybe we wouldn't have pursued. And you see that in a lot of economic downturns. But I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's difficult. And the experience of kind of being on that roller coaster, reforecasting with your board of directors, having to level with your employees, having to furlough employees or lay off employees, and then rehire employees as we're now doing to catch up as fast as we can. The company's rebounding. It's been a whirlwind, really big whirlwind. And then you add into that social justice, racial justice conversations, a controversial election. If you can survive as a founder or entrepreneur this year, I think you're going to be great. You're going to do just great. This is building your mettle for at least a decade.
Well, I think that brings us to the end here. Thank you again so much, Katika and Brian. I think we got a ton out of that short discussion, and I hope our viewers enjoyed it as much as I did. With that, I will kick it back to Kevin.
Thank you, Nick, and many thanks to Brian and Katika for such an insightful and important conversation. That's one of the real benefits of these events, gathering thought leaders to talk about big issues and share stories of success. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I'd also like to thank all of our sponsors, CARBOY Winery, Ramika, and of course BDO. And before we call it a wrap, we have one more thing in store for you, and Greg will fill you in.
Thanks so much, Kevin. We're really thrilled to partner on such a great event, and it's not ending here. I'd like to invite all of the audience to our virtual networking event hosted on Zoom. The login information should be hitting your chat box at this very moment. But for now, Kevin, I guess we have to say goodbye, but momentarily we'll be saying hello in the virtual networking and look forward to seeing you there.
Well, it's not goodbye, Greg. It's to be continued. We'll see everyone networking right after this. But if we don't get to say our goodbyes after that, safe travels, everyone.